it's a public hearing. You've been in custody since what, November 1st or October 31st, somewhere around that time?
November the 16th.
November 16th. And you have yet to be provided a lawyer, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What I'm gonna do, Ms. Hurd, is I'm gonna grant a bond of $10 for each charge that you have. And now there are fees and other things that may be added, but in my opinion, it's ridiculous that you've been in jail this amount of time and you've not been provided legal counsel, even though you are entitled to that. So I'm gonna have to go back through your file, and there's gonna be a stay away provision put on your bond as to the person who's the alleged victim in this case. So you're not going to be allowed to contact that person. You're not going to be allowed to go around that person, any of friends or family of that person. Do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I had to take a moment. I don't know the breakdown, but this is not the way things operate in America. And whether you're guilty or innocent of this charge, I don't know. That's the whole process that's going to play itself out. But you should not be languishing in a jail without a lawyer or someone advocating on your behalf. You're still entitled to a lawyer. And my understanding is that those requests were signed saying that you should have a lawyer. But I'm not gonna allow you to sit here while people who have jobs that are supposed to do the things of appointing people to represent you are not doing their jobs. Now, the state of Georgia, they still have a case that they may proceed against you. And they have 4 years from the date of the alleged incident to file whatever charges they want to file. And there have been serious charges that have been leveled. So with the conditions that I've placed on your bond, you have to understand, if you violate those conditions, you could be charged with the felony offense of aggravated stalking, and your bond could be revoked, and you could come back to jail. So, Ms. Freeman, have I left anything out?
No, I think that's it, Judge. Did you want to give a new date for this one, for that June 27th, or either that Monday or that Wednesday?
I'm going to give the June 27th date for you to come back before me, Ms. Hurd, because I don't know your circumstances. I understand a little. So I'm gonna give that June 27th date as a continuance date. If you are able to post bond, that date will get waived, and you will receive a new court date in the mail if the district attorney's office decide that they're going to pursue this case. Do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, you're free to go back, and I'm gonna have to write, honestly, I'm gonna have to do a detailed order because some people may be upset about the decision that I've made today. And so I'm gonna explain my reasoning. I'm gonna explain the breakdown. It's
And Judge, I think also, I guess after you finish that order, so Ms. Hurd knows that you'll get a copy of that order to her,
yes,
so she'll have a copy of that.
yes, and I'll call over to the jail, or I ask Miss Mary to make certain that she gets that piece of paper to be in her hands. Because ma'am, you still have a uphill battle. Based upon allegations, and I don't know how it's gonna go, but what's been done to you, in my opinion, is unfair and unnecessary. And it places the state at a disadvantage, it places you at a disadvantage. So, do you have any questions, ma'am?
So when you said about the fine, saying like $10 per charges?
You're charged with 5 charges. Aggravated assault, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, tampering with evidence, and terroristic threats. So that's going to be a total of a $50 bond, but the sheriff's department is required by law to add fees to it. So I don't know the exact number that it's going to be, but it's going to be a little bit more than that. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. You're welcome. You're free to go back. Make sure you speak to your family so they can hopefully help you get out of custody. And Miss Mary, we'll put her on the June 27th. Yes.
Okay.
And we'll see what happens. Now we're at the jail. If you can effort to get Miss Moore, please try that. But I know, she's an adult and she makes her own decisions. So we have Officer Austin here, and we're ready for Howard Graham. Can we bring Howard Graham up? Are you Howard Graham?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Graham, this is your preliminary hearing date. My name is Brad Gardner. I'm going to be the judge presiding over this hearing. I need to just caution you that anything you say here is not privileged or private. So please don't discuss or say anything that you wouldn't want the whole world to hear. And if at some point you need to speak to your lawyer, I'll give you that opportunity so you can have a private conversation with your lawyer about something that may have popped up. For the record, this is State of Georgia versus Howard Graham. Mr. Graham is charged in warrant number 2022 CW 50945 with committing the offense of interference with custody. Mr. Graham is also charged in warrant number 2022 CW 50946 with committing the offense of computer pornography and child exploitation. Mr. Graham is charged in warrant number 2022 CW 50947 with committing the offense of rape. He's charged in warrant number 2022 CW 50950 with committing the offense of trafficking a person for labor or servitude. I don't have a charge.
There's no, I don't care if it's a world here. I do know my
Mr.
rights.
Mr. Grant, this whole thing is being recorded. You can unmute him. You can unmute him. Mr. Graham, it's in your best interest to remain silent. You have a lawyer that's going to protect your interests. Everything here is being recorded. Everything that I'm telling you right now are allegations. State has proved these allegations beyond a reasonable doubt. Just if you got, it would be in your best interest if you have a contention about a label, speak to your lawyer about it. Talk to your lawyer about it. Don't try to talk yourself out of it, because, sir, whatever you've been able to say or do at this point still has you behind bars in a jail. So don't try to talk yourself out of this. But you have, and I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna shut up. It's my job to give you the opportunity to speak, and that generally is done when you have a lawyer. Is you speak through your lawyer, because your lawyers went to law school. Your lawyer knows what to say or not say. Because if you start engaging me in a conversation, Mr. Graham, I've been a lawyer for 22 years. And if I start asking you questions, it may not turn out well for you. Okay, sir?
I just, like, I understand, I'm not trying to disrespect you, Your Honor, I'm really not. You know what I'm saying? It's already difficult for me to hear this stuff anyway. And I know, I feel like I have a right to speak, and I have a right to defend myself. But at the same time, I know this is preliminary hearing. I understand your job, I don't mean no disrespect. But I feel like I have a voice, it's my right to have a voice. Because I feel like a lot of the allegations that's put against me are some of the false. You know what I'm saying? And it's true.
So Mr. Graham, the thing that I tell people in first appearance hearings and preliminary hearings, everybody that has gone to trial and have been found not guilty go through the exact same process that you're going through right now. So the allegations are the allegations, and you have a right to defend yourself. But you're at a point now where your lawyer doesn't even have the whole case file from the state with whatever evidence and statements and things of that sort. And your lawyer is going to be asking those questions today. So how about it's better to see, as what I would say, what they are saying about you. You see what they're saying about you, and you sit down with your lawyer and you say, this ain't right. This didn't happen this way, or I was here on this date, or I was here on that time. Right now, if you start talking, you're going to repeat the same things that got you arrested in the first place. So but it is your choice. And I'll give you that choice. And your lawyer can't stop me from giving you that choice. And if you want to do it, you can do it. But for warrant number 2022 CW 50970, I don't have a charge listed for 70.
It's cruelty to children in the first degree.
Okay. And then finally, I believe finally, it's warrant number 2022 CW 50971. Nope, it's not finally. 50971 charges child molestation, and 50972 statutory rape. So, Mr. House, I understand it's hard to hear these allegations, but I have to at least state the case so that we can get into a posture where we can have a hearing. Okay, sir?
Yes, sir. I understand.
Mr. Graham is here represented by Ms. Pleasant, and Ms. Freeman is here representing the state. Ms. Freeman, would you please swear in your witness and present your case?
Thank you, Your Honor. Can the jail be muted first?
Yes, I'll mute them.
Detective Austin, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm that testimony about to provide in the matter of state of Georgia versus Howard Graham will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell us your name and how you're employed.
Detective Michelle Austin, Clinton County Police Department as a detective in CID, and I've been here for 8 years.
Since working with the Clayton County Police Department, were you assigned a case involving the defendant Howard Graham?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Please tell us how this investigation came about.
So on February 24th, Clayton County Police Department dispatch received a call from the victim's mother. The victim's mother, who was located in Topeka, Kansas, called stating that her daughter had gone missing days prior and had called her on that date saying that she wanted to come home and that she was being dropped off at a Dollar General or Family Dollar in the Clayton County jurisdiction. Officers responded and found the victim at the Family Dollar, made contact with her, and at that point they were alerted that a sexual assault had taken place and that she was in fact the missing child out of Topeka, Kansas. That's when
How old was the child?
13.
She was 13 at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were you able to confirm her identity and date of birth with her mother?
Yes, ma'am. So her mother had friends and family that are here in the Clayton County area, church members, and they were able to come make contact. We were able to confirm the identity of the child and bring her over to have a forensic interview performed.
What did the forensic interview indicate?
Well, the victim disclosed during a forensic interview of meeting the suspect online. The suspect advised the victim that he was 18 years old. While they were online on a game app, the victim was asked by the suspect to meet him at a different chat room on a different app, according to the victim. She went into this app's chat room, and at that point, they began exchanging information. The victim gave the suspect her address. They were supposed to get together. This happened, I believe, on a Wednesday or a Thursday. That Sunday, the suspect drove from Clayton County to Topeka, Kansas, and picked the victim up from her residence and brought her back to Clayton County. The victim stated that en route back to Clayton County from Topeka, the suspect took the SIM card out of her cellular device and destroyed the SIM card and threw it out the window. When they arrived back here to Clayton County, there was sexual intercourse, oral and vaginal intercourse that took place at the suspect's residence on 3 different occasions. The occasions would have been the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd during the time that she was in the custody of the suspect.
Okay, stop for 1 second. I know, Ms. Freeman, you probably know this, and Detective Austin, you probably know this, but for all intents and purposes, because this is a young victim, I don't want there to be any kind of identification of the victim. Okay.
Yeah. Right. That's why Right, Detective Austin has just referred, we've just said the victim and she's given her age, so.
Yes.
Detective Austin, from your investigation, were you able to confirm the residents or any of the information that this juvenile victim gave?
Yes, ma'am. So after the forensic interview was concluded, we sent our police social worker from Clayton County along with another officer. The victim was able to lead them back to the residence. Later investigation of the residents found that our suspect was in fact a resident of that residence. I then put together an ops plan and we were able to get a search warrant for the residents. During that time, we had officers watching the residents. The suspect left and at that time went to work and he was actually picked up from work. We decided that it would be a good idea to just grab him from work. So we were able to confirm the residence, everything that the victim described inside of the residence up to a music studio inside the residence. We were able to confirm during the search warrant of the residence. And later on, of course, I don't know if we're there yet, but we were able to interview the suspect and he did agree to interview with us after Miranda was read.
And when you say the suspect, who are you referring to?
Mr. Graham, Howard Graham.
Did the defendant make any admissions during this interview?
Yes, ma'am. The defendant made multiple admissions during the interview that was audio and video recorded and did write an apology letter at the end of the interview to the parent.
What admissions did he make?
He made admissions to first kissing the victim that took place as soon as he picked the victim up. And then he made admissions to having sexual intercourse with the victim during the time period that the victim was in the residence.
And just to make sure, when we say sexual intercourse, can you describe exactly what that means?
Mr. Graham admitted that he did have penile to vaginal intercourse with the victim. I believe, if I'm recalling it correctly, he did deny that he had the oral sex with the victim, but stated he did have vaginal to penile intercourse with the victim.
Did Mr. Graham admit to going to Kansas to pick up the victim?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Graham did admit that he met the victim on in the chat room. He met the victim on the child gaming site and invited her to the chat room. He admitted that he did tell the victim at the time he was 18 years of age. He admitted to going to pick her up from her residence. At some point during the interview, he did finally admit to destroying the SIM card. He stated it was the victim's idea to destroy it. He admitted to bringing her back to the residence and he admitted to sexual intercourse.
Detective, after the juvenile victim had her forensic interview, did she also have a medical exam to determine if there were any injuries to her?
Yes, ma'am. She did have a medical exam and a forensic interview, though.
Did the medical exam reveal any injuries to her?
It was not trauma, but there was, according to the person that did the forensic, there was signs that some kind of sexual intercourse had taken place, but nothing trauma was revealed during during the medical.
Was there, or did the victim indicate whether or not anyone else was in the home of the residence while she was there?
Yes, ma'am. While she was in the residence, she met two roommates. According to the victim, during her forensic interview, she stated that her and Mr. Graham had already come up with a plan on the way back from Topeka, Kansas. And the plan at the time was if she was questioned by any of the male roommates, she was to tell the male roommates that she was his daughter. And at one point, Mr. Graham left. The victim assumed to go to work, and she went to one of the roommates, a male, and told them that she was hungry. And the roommate then told her, talk to your father when your father comes back. And the victim got upset and stated, "That's not my father." And that's how the roommates were alerted that the victim was actually not a relative of Mr. Graham, and that it was someone that an unknown person that he had brought into the residence.
Were officers able to identify these roommates?
Yes, officers made contact during their search warrant on their end with the roommates. I do not have their names up front, but they did make contact at the residence.
Do you know whether or not those roommates corroborated what the juvenile victim has stated?
Yes, the roommates did corroborate that the juvenile victim had been in the residence for a few days.
Detective, the actual sexual intercourse, where exactly in the home, or did the victim say exactly in the home where that occurred?
Yes, ma'am. She said the sexual intercourse occurred in Mr. Graham's bedroom.
Do you recall the address of the defendant's residence, Detective?
The address, I actually wrote it down on my notepad if I can look at it. The address of the residence, 6394 Waikiki Way.
And is that in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am. Forest Park, Clayton County, Georgia. This is Forest Park.
During the victim's forensic interview, did he indicate whether or not the defendant, did he purchase her any items while she was here in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am. So we did go back to the Family Dollar. The reason she knew how to give the address to the Family Dollar is because when they entered Clayton County from, during their travels, that was their first stop, was to that specific store. He did purchase her, I believe she said it was a hoodie and some other items from that store prior to going to the incident location. He also purchased her some food during the time that she was at the incident location as well. I believe she said it was like a burger place or something that was in the area of the residence.
And Detective, from your investigation, what date was the victim taken from Kansas?
She would have been taken from, first contact was made on February 17th, and she was picked up on February 20th from Kansas. The morning of February 20th.
And just so we're clear, did Mr. Graham have the permission of her mother to take her from Kansas and bring her to Clayton County?
No, ma'am. No contact was made with the parent. The victim left the house with a small bag of clothes, and got into the car, and the parents were not aware the victim was leaving the residence.
The apps that were used for this communication, do you recall what those apps were?
Yes, ma'am. The first, I didn't know if I could say it on Zoom. The first app was a Roblox app, which is a popular app among kids. So it was, the first contact was made on Roblox. There was a message sent through Roblox, and it asked her to come over to an app called MILF.com. And it's a private app, of course, and they have chat rooms. And so that's where she began to communicate more with him as far as making arrangements for the pickup and drop off and everything. That took place on MILF.com.
Have you been able to secure any records from those apps?
No, ma'am. Unfortunately, I went on leave for 10 weeks right after the arrest, so I have not been back. So that's why the case file is still open. I need to do search warrants on a couple of other things before I close it out.
Did the victim give any kind of details or description of the actual sexual intercourse?
She did. Based on the age, she didn't give a detailed description like we would as an adult. However, she did say that the forensic interviewer, once she admitted to sexual intercourse, asked her questions with an anatomical drawing, questions to the effect of, did his penis, what's the penis, go into your vagina? And she was able to confirm that the penis did go into the vagina. She is also the one that made the outcry of oral sex as well, which would have been his penis to her mouth.
Did she indicate whether or not it was painful or not?
She did not indicate whether or not it was painful.
I withdraw.
Or I'll say question has been withdrawn. I muted myself. I apologize.
I believe that's all I have. Thank you, Detective.
No problem. Thank you.
Ms. Pleasant?
Thank you, Your Honor. When did the forensic interview take place?
The forensic interview took place on the day that the call came out. So I'm sorry. The forensic interview took place on 2/25 because the call for the road officers came out on 2/24 at 10:30 p.m. So the forensic interview took place hours later. They actually, what's the word I'm looking for? They called the Rainbow House out. So they activated the Rainbow House and they came in first thing that morning and performed the forensic.
And who conducted the interview at Rainbow House?
If I don't know if you want me to look at my case file, I can tell you if I look in the case file, I have it at the top.
If that's going to refresh your recollection, please
Okay.
do.
That is going to be Nikisha Wykel.
Nikisha, say the last name
Wykel.
again.
Wykel, Weikel, Nikisha.
Okay. And who conducted the interview with my client?
I did. It was
And on
myself.
what day was that conducted?
That was conducted on 3/1/22.
And you said Miranda was read to him?
Yes, ma'am. He signed Miranda.
Okay, so you have a signed form that's been entered into evidence.
I have a signed form that's with the case file right now. The case file's been locked up because I went out right after we arrested him.
And was this interview, was it memorialized in any way?
I'm sorry.
Was the interview memorialized in any way?
Was the interview recorded
Audio,
or?
video?
Yes,
it
it's audio
recorded?
video. Yes, audio video is saved on our drive. Yes, ma'am.
Now, precisely how was the alleged victim able to make contact with her mother in Kansas?
I'm not clear on how she made contact. We got the 911 call from the mother in Kansas. It's unclear how she made contact. I believe during her forensic interview, and I can review it, she said that the roommate allowed her to use his phone while Mr. Graham was out of the residence to contact her mother and tell her mother that she would be dropped at the Family Dollar at a specific time.
Okay, you said dropped. How exactly did she get to the family
Mr.
Family
Graham
Dollar?
brought her to the Family Dollar. According to her, he was not on scene when officers arrived. It was just her on scene. And according to the victim, Mr. Graham brought her to the Family Dollar. And when the officers arrived, lights and sirens, it startled Mr. Graham, according to the victim, and he pulled away before the officers pulled in.
So just to be clear, the alleged victim went along with Mr. Graham freely from
Yes, ma'am.
Kansas to Clayton County.
Yes, ma'am.
And there have been no allegations that she did anything against her will.
The only allegation that she made against her will was when he destroyed her SIM card and threw it out the window. She's stating that she did not agree to that and that he took the phone and took the SIM card out and threw it out the window. Also, when they were in the residence, when he left for work, she stated he left for work. He told her she could not leave the residence.
And you previously testified on direct that you had a search warrant that was executed for the residence, correct?
So yes, so the initial plan was to do an ops plan just in case, because we had multiple people in a residence and we could not identify who was who outside of our suspect. So I put together an ops plan because we were going to do a search warrant with SWAT to be on the safe side the next morning. However, Mr. Graham was spotted because we do surveillance for 24 hours leading up to the search warrant. He was spotted leaving the residence and going to his employment. It was the decision was made that due to us not knowing how many people were in a residence, we were going to take him directly from his place of employment. So the warrant was executed after Mr. Graham was already in custody.
What, if anything, was recovered through the search warrant?
I would have to go back through. I know there was some audio and video because the victim had stated during her forensic interview that there was a recording studio in the house and that at some point she was allowed to record on a song. So the audio and video from the house was retrieved. There was bedding that was retrieved from from Graham's bedroom, along with, I believe it was a gray hoodie, one of the gray hoodies that we were trying to find on the video camera from the Dollar General. But I would have to go through the entire inventory sheet to give you the rest of the items that were taken, because unfortunately I was here interviewing Mr. Graham. I was not on scene when the search warrant was executed.
But to your knowledge, a large amount of, if there was recovered.
Yes, ma'am. It's at least an
from
inventory
his
sheet.
room.
Yes, ma'am.
And you just said that there's video from Dollar General. Is it Dollar General or Family Dollar?
It's going to be, let me just look, I always get the two confused. It's going to be Dollar General on Tower Boulevard. I don't know if you need a numerics for that. And no, we were not able to get any of the video captured. They lose it after a certain amount of time. And like I said, I went out right after the arrest. I was out.
Okay, so what did you observe on the video at that time?
No, I did not go out to get the video, is what I'm saying. Once the arrest, yeah. I sent detectives out to the Dollar General, and at the time they could not access the video. They needed management to access the video. And then right after that, I went out. So I don't think there was a follow-up. I would have to check RMS to see, but I don't think
nothing at all was observed on the video at Dollar General.
No, ma'am. According to the detectives, nothing was observed on the video at Dollar General.
Okay. And did you execute a search warrant for DNA in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that on?
DNA was collected during Mr. Graham's interview. He had a copy of the search warrant. I went to the jail with him, and there was DNA collected, of course, during the rape kit for the victim when she went to the Rainbow House.
So if anything with regards to the bedding?
Nothing for the bedding. They will not, Georgia Bureau of Investigation will not test the bedding until something comes back with the DNA. Like we have to have a match of some sort between the suspect. So there's a whole procedure. So the bedding right now is in evidence.
And if you would take a brief moment and tell me what else you have in evidence that was seized from the residence.
Okay, you want me to go in the case file?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so from the residence is a black and color iPhone with a gray cover. One silver and color MacBook Pro. One, let me know if I'm going too fast. I don't know if you're writing this or you just went on the record.
I can hear it. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One silver and color MacBook. One blue and silver and color flash drive. One bag of clothing. One letter. Lettered gray and blue blanket. That's the blanket the victim described sleeping on or having sexual intercourse on. one black in color female boy short panties, black in color Nike tracksuit, black in color computer, black in color hard drive with WD initials on it, gray in color hard drive, black in color Sony camera, black in color Canon camera, black in color Sony RX, gray in color Metro PCS cellular phone, two black in color PNY. I would have to go on the RMS and see the description of exactly what that is. One black and silver flash drive, two red and color spiral notepads, one silver and color Apple monitor, one black and color Sony HD, and Cameron handheld camera, one Roblox gift card, one black and color Samsung cell phone, one black and silver and color HP computer, one gold and color necklace with letter H pendant, one bag of female miscellaneous clothing, one blue and color blanket, one gray and color washcloth, one green and color blanket, one black and white and color fitted sheet, one black and color Apple iPhone Pro Max. And then there's a separate inventory sheet, of course, for the buccal swabs that were taken from him at the precinct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Now, you testified as well that he had roommates. How many roommates?
Yes, ma'am. There's two males who also lived in the residence.
And they've been interviewed with regards to the alleged victim in this case.
The only interviews were the brief interviews that took place on scene by officers. It should be on body cam. Officers were on scene during the search warrant. So the detectives that went on scene questioned them. It was brief questioning about whether or not the female was in the residence and when she arrived to the residence, when she left the residence.
And that was
just
the
general
interviews were both roommates or just one?
Yes. I believe it was both roommates. I'll go back and look. It was done. It wasn't done here at the precinct. It was done when the search warrant was executed. So that was
Okay.
done by separate detectives.
And those would, you said that, would they be on body camera?
They should be on body camera. We always have to have one officer on scene during the execution of a search warrant. So that officer should have had a body camera on, yes.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Judge, I just had one follow-up and I think it's because I wasn't clear on the response. No, that's okay. I knew you were muted.
Yes.
Detective, I believe Attorney Pleasant, correct me if I'm wrong. I think she asked you a question during her examination regarding if the victim indicated that if whether any of these acts were against her will.
Yes, ma'am, that's what she asked.
Okay, and what was your response to that?
It was not against her will.
And so regarding that, what did the victim, what did she indicate in response to being asked that?
I'm sorry.
If you're stating that the victim, are you saying that the victim stated it wasn't against her will?
No, it was never during her forensic interview, because they interviewed her, and she never made a statement that anything was happening against her will as far as her getting in the car, her going to the residence. She never made an outcry that anything was against her will during her forensic interview.
Okay. Well, and based on that, and you took out a warrant for rape, is that correct?
Yes, due to the age.
Okay. You took out a warrant for statutory rape and rape, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When the victim was in the house, and it, just because I know the testimony, we've heard a lot of testimony, just trying to be clear, was the victim able to leave the residence when she wanted to?
No, ma'am. According to the victim, she was told when he left for work, and like I said, I'm not assuming, but this is what the victim is saying, he left for work, that she was told she was not to leave the house. At one point, the victim stated during her forensic that she was told to stay in the bedroom when the suspect left the house. But at some point during a 3-day interaction, she was allowed out of the bedroom, and that's how she ended up in the roommate's music studio.
Okay. Judge, I believe that's all I have.
Okay, Ms. Pleasant, do you have any follow-up?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So may Detective Austin be excused, Ms. Freeman?
Yes, Judge, and the state waives opening.
Okay. Detective Austin, thank you for your patience. You are free to stay and listen to the end, but if you have something else to do, you're also free to go, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, Miss Pleasant, before we get to the argument stage, your client has been animated. And if he has a statement to say, I'll give him that opportunity. But before I do that, I want to hear your viewpoint on whether your client should make a statement or not.
He absolutely should not make a statement. It's not in his best interest. And I would ask to be briefly placed into a breakout room with him to remind him of the conversation that we previously had.
Okay. Can we unmute Mr. Graham? Mr. Graham, and please don't start talking. You've heard from your lawyer as to her position as to whether you want to make a statement or not. You have to understand that if you start wanting to make a statement, I would have to place you under oath, and the state will have an opportunity to cross-examine you about anything that you've said. But the right to provide testimony is a personal right that belongs to you and you alone.
Well, I have one thing to say.
Wait. So that's what I gotta say, Mr. Graham. Once you start talking, you open the process up to stuff that Ms. Freeman can't make you say, I can't make you say. But once you voluntarily enter into that arena, you open yourself up to dangers. Because if I have a question about anything that you say, I'm going to ask that question. If Ms. Freeman has a question about anything you want to say, she's going to ask that question. So do you want to at least speak to your lawyer first before you say anything?
I do, but I'm not making any missions on camera because of
Mr. Graham, and the reason I'm stopping you is people tell me all the time, well, I'm not saying that, I did this, but I did do that. And
I'm not saying that.
Stop, please, sir, please stop. And they unknowingly make admissions. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to give Ms. Pleasant an opportunity to speak to you about whatever it is that you want to say, and it'll be in a private room. So you can lay it out to her chapter and verse and get her advice. And I would encourage you to accept her advice of whatever she says to you, because she actually went to school for this and paid a
Understood.
bunch of money for it.
Understood.
So I'm gonna pause to here. I'm gonna place you in a breakout room. Miss Freeman, I saw Miss Pass and Miss Rockwell come back on. So